Do you want to know why Bobby Kotick were mentioned 300 times in those Epstein files? It's not just about a name. It's about a decade of targeting your kids. And as a former industry worker, I got a few things to say about that. Alright, you lot. Welcome back to another Scotty McGaming podcast. This week I got a proper meeting for you. Community questions that go way beyond gaming. Free games that you need to grab before they're gone. And a rant or two that might get me cancelled if I want already uncancelable. Get ready, because nobody's safe and note's off limits. So first question this week comes from Firkinell, and it's a belter. He asks, "Hey Scotty, sometimes I feel left out in pecking order of gaming, as in not being catered for. How do you feel about being left behind as you get older, where your skills and abilities are even more stifled and companies determined to continue to rob you blind, and furthermore companies continue to cater for 10 to 20-year-olds? Mate, honestly, feels like nobody cares about people who help build this industry from note. And look, yeah, I get it. Markets move on. You've got to focus on your biggest demographic if you want to survive as a business. Only problem is, I'm focusing on kids. And kids aren't actually the biggest demographic. Average age of gamers globally sits at 41 years old right now, not 18 to 21. And most of those under 18 players, they're glued to platforms like Fortnite and Roblox, not buying full-price AAA titles. So if you want to make more money, maybe look at catering for an older crowd? Yeah? Because we're ones with disposable income. We're also ones paying for little Jimmy's purchases too. Keep us happy, we keep paying. Simple, right? But here's where it gets ugly. AAA industry right now is living on a knife's edge, and it's close to a complete collapse if Suits don't innovate fast. Ubisoft stocks are hovering around €4, down from 24 in 2018. A company generating billions, valued at under $1 billion. Many of us have boycotted them completely, and yet Suits at that company still insist that what we tell them we want is wrong. They're focused on the current trajectory, which is straight into an abyss of irrelevance. With that attitude and direction, Ubisoft won't be around by the end of this decade. Then there's Activision. And given what has been learned about Bobby Kotick and his connection with Jeffrey Epstein, suddenly makes a lot of sense about manipulation tactics used in Call of Duty. Now, I've done some deep research of my own since I saw news that Bobby were mentioned in Epstein files. And to be clear on one part, Bobby being mentioned 300 times is a bit of an embellishment. Some of those mentions are duplicate copies. And after Bobby said he no longer checks one email personally, he gave 3 others to be reached on, which are all used in every communication going forward. So those 300 times soon build up when you communicate into 3 email addresses at a time. But that doesn't take away from the fact that Bobby is in there. To be mentioned even once requires at least some looking into. But we need to be sure it's looked at properly, not just at face value. Now yeah, email communications did include a man called Pablo Solomon. He said to Epstein himself, "I'm all for indoctrinating kids into an economy." And look at email subject line. It reads, "Re-President of Call of Duty Activision." That's how Epstein framed Kotick when forwarding his message to Ullman. Not CEO or Activision Blizzard, not gaming executive, but specifically President of Call of Duty. Epstein himself were framing his entire conversation around that specific franchise and its reach. And Ullman's response about indoctrinating kids went straight back to Epstein, a convicted child sex trafficker, who were clearly a middleman brokering ideas between these people. This were in May 2013, 1 month after Call of Duty had already started introducing microtransactions. Remember Bacon Camo? That dropped for Xbox in March 2013, PlayStation in April. But that was just beginning, and from there, everything spiralled into bigger manipulative clown show we're seeing today. Bobby had been corresponding with both Epstein and Maxwell for years before bringing microtransactions into court. Maxwell's emails with Kotick go back to at least 2004, where she wrote, "You don't ring, you don't write," and Kotick allegedly replied referencing "that sexy body." Epstein were dining with Kotick in New York by November 2012, sending him information about his private island in December 2012. So seeing comments in those communications about indoctrinating kids is more than a suspiciously smoking gun for me. Here we have an adult-rated game using manipulative tactics to entice kids to play. You gotta wonder, to what end? Call of Duty has been knowingly targeting kids for over a decade. with a man in charge who were close friends with a convicted child sex trafficker. Heat were rising for Kotick back in 2022 after workplace culture scandals. Phil Spencer called him up and offered a way out, leading to Microsoft acquiring Activision. Kotick jumped ship with roughly $400 million, an obscene golden parachute for a man who presided over that level of rock. And yet what began as a child predatory practice is still being used by new owners. And they seem to be doubling down on it. And speaking of, let me tell you what just dropped this week. Because honestly, I couldn't have timed this podcast better if I'd planned it with a crystal ball and a Ouija board. Phil Spencer's retired. Gone. 38 years at Microsoft and is out. And if that wasn't enough for a gut punch, Sarah Bond, president of Xbox, a woman everyone in that industry assumed was next in line for his chair, she didn't get promoted. She resigned. Same day. Both of them. At once. Now Microsoft's PR machine wants you to believe this were all planned. A lovely smooth handover. Phil had a wonderful run. Sarah's moving on to new adventures. Everyone's hugging in corridors somewhere. Bollocks. Absolute bollocks. You don't lose a CEO and president of a division generating tens of billions in revenue at the same bloody day and call that succession planning? And who have to put in charge? A woman called Asha Sharma. Now I'm not going to attack her personally, because on paper she's clearly a very capable executive. She ran operations at Instacart, a grocery delivery app. She were at Meta doing Messenger and Instagram. Most recently, she was president of Microsoft's core AI division, which is their artificial intelligence wing. Not to stop missing from that CV. Out at all? Yeah, games. Not a single day in gaming. Not one. Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, has looked at a division built on creative talent, passion, communities, and decades of brand loyalty, and he's gone, you know what this needs? A grocery delivery boss who's really good at AI. That's not a hire. That's a statement of intent. Microsoft don't see Xbox as a gaming brand anymore. Sees it as a data pipeline for Azure cloud services with a controller strapped to it. Now here's where it gets properly ugly. And I want to be clear, what I'm about to say is me reading available evidence, not verified fact. But if you look at what's been reported over the past 2 years, very grim picture forms. Reports from credible financial journalists, not just rumour mills, suggest that Microsoft CFO Amy Hood slapped a 30% profit margin target on Xbox. 30%! In an industry where margins historically sit between 17 and 22%. Microsoft publicly denied that exact number on CNBC. Because of course they did. But when you look at everything that's happened since, studio closures, Game Pass price hikes of 50%, flagship exclusives being shipped to PlayStation, hardware sales dropped 29%, every single one of those decisions makes perfect sense if someone upstairs is screaming 30% or else. And it makes zero sense if this is just normal business. Think about what Spencer and Bond were asked to do. They spent a decade convincing gamers to trust Xbox. They brought in studios like Bethesda, Double Fine, Obsidian. They told developers, come to us. We'll give you creative freedom and Microsoft money behind you. They sold millions of people on Game Pass as best deal in gaming. And then corporate turned round and told them to fire those same developers. Shut down award-winning studios like Tango Gameworks. Studio that literally just shipped Hi-Fi Rush to critical acclaim. Hike prices to a point where loyal subscribers are rage cancelling in droves. And add every exclusive franchise to Sony on a silver platter. You built this house, Phil. Now burn it down with a smile while you do it. That, to me, is why they left. Not because Phil fancied a quiet retirement. Not because Sarah wanted a change of scenery. Because they were told to gut everything they'd built. And they said, no. Now, I can't prove that, but I bet my entire Steam library on it. And now Sharma's come out swinging with her first memo promising no soulless AI slop and saying games will always be crafted by humans. Lovely words. Inspiring stuff. But read it carefully. She don't say AI won't be used. She says bad AI won't be used. And games will be crafted by humans with innovative technology provided by us. That's not a rejection of AI in game development. That's a terms and conditions clause. She's telling you AI is coming into every studio pipeline, every workflow, every creative process. But trust her, it'll be good AI. Meanwhile, Microsoft has already leaked an internal memo saying using AI is no longer optional. Managers are now evaluating staff on how much they use Copilot. So, developers at Xbox Studios are being graded on how enthusiastically they train their own replacements. Oh, what a time to be alive! And Matt Booty, head of Xbox Game Studios, is being kept on and promoted to Chief Content Officer. Why? Because Sharma doesn't know a polygon from a fucking postage stamp. She needs someone who speaks developer, someone who can walk into Bethesda or Blizzard and translate, we need 30% margins via AI automated asset pipelines, into something that don't cause a mass walkout. Boot is a corporate translator. He's not there to protect creative vision. He's there to make sure creative teams swallow pill without choking on it. So Microsoft bought Activision for nearly $70 billion, a company already rotten with predatory monetization tactics aimed at kids, run by a man connected to Jeffrey Epstein's circle, and instead of cleaning house, instead of saying, right, we bought this, now let's fix it, they've doubled down on manipulation, slapped an impossible profit margin on top, gutted studios, alienated their entire fan base, and now they've installed an AI executive to finish what Suits started. Phil Spencer's Xbox is dead. Whatever comes next into Xbox. It's Microsoft Cloud Gaming, powered by Azure, skinned to look like something you once loved. Here's my prediction, and I'll stake my reputation on this one. Microsoft thinks it's too big to fail. Call of Duty thought it were too big to fail. Ubisoft thought it were too big to fail. Look at Ubisoft now, hovering at €4 a share, hemorrhaging talent, hemorrhaging trust, valued at under $1 billion despite generating billions. Microsoft Gaming's walking an identical path, just with a bigger budget and fancier suit. Over the coming years, you're going to see subscriber numbers crater. You're going to see studios quietly close or get absorbed into AI-driven content farms. And you're going to see gamers migrate in massive numbers to Steam, to Linux, to anywhere that isn't controlled by a publicly traded tech giant that views your hobby as a data harvesting operation. I've already made my jump. I'm blacklisting Activision Studios, like I have with Ubisoft. I sold my Xbox, cancelled Game Pass. I've already made my jump to Linux, as so many other PC owners have these days. And honestly, it's the best thing I've ever done. Between child predatory actions and complete ignorance at Suits towards what gamers tell them they want, it's no longer an industry I remember. And this is a message to anyone else listening. Ubisoft Suits don't care what you want. They say you're wrong and don't really know what you want. Activision and Microsoft, knowingly or not, are manipulating kids. None of them deserve your time and money. And yeah, I haven't mentioned EA because, for now, they ain't quite crossed line for me. I know there are reasons many have boycotted them, and yeah, I agree that for you, it's a valid reason. I stand by you and your decision. But for me, they're not there. Yet. At the end of the day, though, it's entirely up to you. We how things are looking in our world today, it's only a matter of time before these big names all share the same fate. Personally, I'm probably going to be more focused towards carefully curated indie games. There's plenty to choose from, but I won't be financing manipulation of kids in adult games. More than you bargained for there, Firkinell, but cheers for a cracking question, mate. Fully loaded answer, no extra charge. Stay strong, mate. There's more games out there, even in free-to-play scene, which I'll be covering a little more later. But let's break off and take a moment. Take a look at this week's free games that dropped into Epic Games Store and Amazon Prime. And yeah, some of these are actually worth your time. Starting with Epic Games. First up, Return to Ash. It's a narrative-driven visual novel where you play as Ashley, trapped in hospital purgatory. You meet others who are stuck there and face trials from death itself. It's artsy and emotional, and apparently can be completed in as little as 2 to 4 hours. So not one you'll spend all night till 3 AM playing, but probably worth a look if you're into visual novels. Then there's STALCRAFT X Starter Edition. Now this is a starter pack for a free-to-play open-world shooter set in Chernobyl's exclusion zone. You got a choice of playstyles, including trading, artifact hunting, and faction wars. But best part about this one? No wipes. Your progress is saved forever. It's free to play anyway, but may as well grab this on Epic, containing 20 quid's worth of goodies to get you started. Over on Amazon Prime, we got 3 games that dropped this week, and all of them are claimed via GOG, which means they're yours to keep forever. No one can take them away from you. First is Meganoid, indie platform shooter by Orange Pixel. This one's right up my old arts alley, with its pixel art style, blasting your way through enemies and procedurally generated labyrinth of levels. Collect power gadgets such as jetpacks, anti-gravity boots, and even hacking tools that let you bend ship's defences to your will. This one looks a lot of fun, and I'm grabbing it. You probably should too. Next is Captain Blood, third-person hack-and-slash pirate adventure. And you know, since I played that Pinocchio pirate adventure game, Sea of Remnants, I'm actually willing to give this a shot. Art style's interesting. They call it visual novel style. I call it Fortnite style. It's set on Spanish Main in the 17th century, where you step into the boots of a fearsome pirate on a quest for gold and glory. Could be a fun game. You won't lose out giving it a shot, because it's free. And then there's Ambition, a minuet in power. Visual novel RPG set in 18th century France. Look, I'm a sucker for old France and musketeers. I'm sure this isn't a musketeer story, but French aristocracy of that period, in this case King Louis XVI, were a little unique. So I'm going to give it a go, see what storytelling's like. If not else, it should be an interesting read. So, grab 'em while they're free. Right then, back to more questions. And Ages444 says, hot take, but I trust a game that you have to pay for more than any free-to-play games. There are exceptions, but my experience has been better service and more transparency, along with quality in a game that I paid $40 to $60 than a free-to-play game that tries to milk customer for everything that they're worth. Activision and EA don't count since they're, well, Activision and EA. They both use a free-to-play model. Deep Rock Galactic has a price tag and it has best battle pass system to date. Ark Raiders is still going strong and is wiping floor with both COD and Battlefield 6, while Marvel Rivals and Fortnite tried to make you pull your wallet as much as possible. There are probably better examples of free-to-play games that are very scummy, but I think you get my point. Right? That is hot tech. Course in many gamers' experience, paid games take your money and run. Like most of them are moaning about Battlefield 6 right now without looking at real context of what's going on behind the scenes. But in my experience, actual free-to-play games tend to be more passionate and cared for, since they need people to play and pay in order to survive. Like that game I just mentioned earlier, STALCRAFT X. It's a free-to-play game, but to survive it'll need players actually playing and dropping a few quid here and there in microtransactions. Whereas, say, Call of Duty, premium game attempting a free-to-play model, they don't need to. And they make $6 billion on game sales across a franchise worth $35 billion. They don't need all that extra microtransaction revenue. So that's just greed. And as you well know, a lot of it's unpolished AI slop. You already know I'm not against user AI. It's become a major part of everything now. But lazy slop that Call of Duty churns out is not the right way to use it. Now don't get me wrong here, I get your point. It's an opinion you have every right to hold. And you know I respect that. And yeah, I agree Deep Rock Galactic's Battle Pass is a great player-first approach. Same as Halo Infinite's. Helldivers 2 and Marvel Rivals are actually pretty good too. In their premium tracks never expire. And sure, lots of people pay up for Fortnite, but they do offer a very good return in value. Battle Pass pays for itself. Skins from 2017 are still usable today. Might be a kid's game, but knowing I can jump in today and play a skin that's considered rare now, that's got some pure value to it. And Warframe, that game bypasses premium tracks entirely with its free Nightwave system, which regularly rotates older rewards back into circulation, so newer players are never permanently locked out to top-tier gear. See, it's all about perspective, and we all view things differently. I respectfully agree to disagree on some parts of what you said there, Ages, but it's an interesting topic for debated comments. So anyone else listening, drop your thoughts respectfully down below. Don't be twonks about it, just share your opinions. And cheers for that, Ages. It's premium quality tech, even if it were free to deliver. And staying with Ages444 for another one, he asks, should we go back to paid expansion packs? Because we got better quality, more overall value, and just more things in general. I know there's argument to expansion pack split player base, but I call bullshit with that, because more I think about it, people have spent 100 times more on current microtransactions on skins, premium currency, and other useless items. But people don't want to spend $15 on an expansion to a game that has quality maps, weapons, and more. All people would have to do is be patient for a few months or however long it took and boom, quality. It don't make sense in my mind. So how about yours? Am I missing something that makes live service a better avenue for customers? It's not about content, mate. It's about dopamine. All these cosmetics and rewards have got people hooked and they require constant content now. They're physically incapable of waiting a few months at a time to get it. Now I know there'll be people listening saying, I can wait. I don't need those cosmetics and shit. And I'm sure there are many people out there like us who don't need them. But everyone else, They absolutely are addicted to a need for instant dopamine. Look at that video I did calling out Nero when he moaned about one challenge taking 15 hours, which works out to 20 minutes of gameplay per week for a whole year's life cycle. That's life cycle of a COD game. But even then, it's still playable when new one comes out. It's not a case of, oh look, new COD's out, we can't play this anymore. This is a problem with modern game design and gamers themselves. Expansion packs were absolutely brilliant. One purchase of $15 got you a bunch of properly crafted maps. I mean actually good maps, not shit they throw together now. Plus a few weapons and new mods to play. And any major remastered maps were, for the most part, dropped for free for everyone. But other reason that splits community? Apparently, not everyone can afford map packs. Bollocks! You're all shelling out at least $30 on AI slop every month, on top of buying $30 black cell every few months. You can fucking afford it. For sake of quality, I would absolutely love to see a return to expansions. But since suits are greedy and players are dopamine addicts, it's not something that'll ever happen. So I guess maps will continually get worse, and devs will keep losing the souls to fat cat overlords in suits that pay them next to naught for their efforts, because they don't have other options. At least that's what they tell themselves. For any dev listening right now, you have more options than you think. That's your 2 questions this week, Ages. Both bangers. Cheers, mate. Next Pyro Friendly Arsonist 9195 asks, what's word on Overwatch finally getting their head into gear? Oh, mate. I'm glad someone asked this, because it's properly layered conversation and I've got feelings about it. So look, Robert Purchase over at Eurogamer wrote a brilliant article about this. I'll have it linked in the description for you. Not surface level. Yeah, sounds fantastic. Dropping 2 from now, going back to just Overwatch, 5 new heroes, 10 planned across all of 2026, fresh UI overall, annual season resets. On paper, this is exactly what fans have been screaming for since Blizzard butchered Overwatch 2 and killed PvE like it were an inconvenience. I'm not shy about saying Overwatch 2 are one of gaming's biggest self-inflicted wounds. They took a beloved game, slapped a 2 on it, ripped away what made it special, and expected applause. So, credit where it's due. Someone at Blizzard has clearly woken up, smelt burning wreckage and gone, right, we need to actually fix this. And if you're an Overwatch fan, you should be excited. Robert's article captures that energy perfectly, and I agree with every word of it. But, and this is a big but, bigger than mine after Christmas dinner, Blizzard's another part to that Microsoft Xbox bollocks we talked about earlier. Blizzard's B in ABK, whole acquisition born from Bobby Kotick's mess. And yeah, I know some people will argue that Microsoft and Xbox don't interfere with studio operations, they just own them, that's it. Bollocks. You don't pay nearly $70 billion on an acquisition, which goes on to provide around 85% of your gaming revenue growth, and not have control over operations. Strip ABK out and Microsoft Gaming's a corpse with a pulse. Flatlined. Done. They know what's going on inside every single studio under that umbrella. They know about bullshit within that company and games coming after it. They just choose to not do out about it, because it allows them to cut big checks for Wall Street bloodsuckers. And that's my problem. I want to be excited about Overwatch. Part of me, that old gamer in me who remembers what it were like, that part of me is genuinely buzzing reading about it. But I can't separate game from machine behind it anymore. Not after everything we've talked about today. So yeah, Overwatch finally got their act together. Good for them. Sincerely, good for them. But for me personally, that ship sailed. And it sailed under a flag I refuse to salute. Cheers for that, Pyro. Overwatch comeback's looking fire, just not for me. Fixer2616 asks, have you ever played Baldur's Gate 3? Short answer, no. But don't mistake that for disinterest, because there's a proper reason behind it, and it ties into something I feel strongly about. I no longer buy games. That's a personal stance I've taken and I'm sticking to it. Now, does that mean I think Baldur's Gate 3 is bad? Absolutely not. From everything I've seen and heard, it's a masterpiece. Larian Studios clearly poured their hearts and souls into that game, and it swept awards season like a force of nature. I respect that enormously. And honestly, I'm a bit jealous of everyone who's played it. Looks incredible. But here's my situation. First 2 Baldur's Gate games, enhanced editions, both dropped free via Amazon Prime on GOG. I grabbed them, I played them, I enjoyed them. They're solid D&D adventures and great for killing a bit of time. So I know I'd enjoy it thirding. I'm not some anti-RPG lunatic who only plays shooters. I genuinely want to experience it. And I will, moment it drops for free. Whether that's Prime, GOG, Epic or whatever. I'm on it like a rash. Could be next month, could be next year, could be 5 years from now. Don't matter. I'm patient. And that's sort of my whole point, innit? We talked earlier about dopamine addiction and people being incapable of waiting. Well, this is me putting my money where my mouth is. Or rather, not putting my money anywhere. I can wait. I got a backlog longer than my arm of free games I ain't touched yet. Baldur's Gate 3 will land on my lap eventually. And when it does, I'll play it with fresh eyes and zero regret about what I paid for it. Cheers for asking, mate. I'd say my wallet's fixed itself firmly shut, but my wish list, wide open. So, thank you all for your questions this week. Some pretty juicy ones this time. Proper meaty stuff. Now, we lost a couple of subscribers this week, down to 2004. I think some folk didn't like schedule change, and that's okay. I'm getting paid very well for my time with this contract, and that's what's important. But to those of you still here, genuinely, thank you. And a big shout out to members. James Lama, Firkinell, Silver Bullet 90, Asian Persuasion, Abapical, Scottish Ether, and Mayhem. Absolute legends, every single one of you. And to you too. Yeah, you, in that 71.2% not subscribed. You choose to watch my videos and spare me your time when you don't have to. And I appreciate you for that. Truly. Like, subscribe and all that bollocks. Drop your comments and questions below. And remember, in this industry, if suits aren't listening to you, at least I am. I'll see you next time, you magnificent.